Caribbean is on the front line of climate change. We believe that the impacts, the negative impacts of climate change will intensify over time. Then the numbers that we're looking at will keep on growing.
$100 billion. That's the number the IMF says is needed for climate change adaptation in the Caribbean region. When it comes to natural hazards, it is one of the most exposed regions on the planet, an archipelago at the mercy of rising sea levels and extreme intensifying hurricanes. The Caribbean Development Bank is leading the fight across a range of key funding and advocacy battlefronts.
The need is big, is huge. CDB does not have the capacity to meet the target. There's a big need for climate finance, both adaptation and mitigation. We have moved to create those strategic partnerships. We also recognize that public resources alone will not obviously fill the gap, and therefore there's a strong need to also leverage private sector.
In response to the many challenges global warming presents, flows of climate finance have increased, reaching $665 billion in 2020. And while trillions of dollars have been pledged for the coming decade, the $800 million allocated to the Caribbean from major climate funding mechanisms is nowhere near what is required. Around $14 billion annually is closer to what the region needs if it hopes to navigate a sustainable future.
The current funding model doesn't work because those countries that need the concessional finance the most are not getting it, just because they're considered high income. And so we need to think outside the box.
The CDB is championing a position that relative exposure to the potential impacts of global warming should be a major consideration when climate funds are allocated, proposing a new vulnerability and resilience framework.
The framework seeks to broaden how we look at development in a country. It moves beyond solely income to consider the natural vulnerabilities in the country, but it also looks at what factors are also inherent in the country to be able to withstand, to bounce back from an exogenous shock.
For the people of the Caribbean, having access to a greater share of the world's climate funds is urgent, immediate, and essential. Without that financial support, the region may not have a sustainable future.